Hello, everybody. Thank you for stopping by to visit the channel for this upcoming game preview of Alabama and Texas. If this is your first time visiting the channel and you want to hear a different take of college football from an analytical perspective, if you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and select all so you don't miss another video. Also, like the video and share the video. I have a very small channel, so it helps it grow a lot. And give me your score prediction in the comment section below, even if you agree or disagree with my score prediction. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, as we always do, with the tail of the tape of advanced metrics between Alabama and Texas. So as we review the tail of the tape of advanced metrics, it looks like both teams are not going to have an advantage over the other. And when you're given the point spread that with the guys over in Las Vegas, Alabama is a 7-point favorite in this game. I'm going to definitely say that that's strictly because they're playing at Bryant-Denny Stadium at night, which is a very tough place to play. In my overall ratings, in my power ratings between the two teams, both Texas and Alabama went up from the previous week. Texas was 9th, and now they've jumped up to 5th based off of their showing against Rice. And Alabama is now the second-ranked team in the country in my power rating. They went from 4th to 2nd after an impressive showing against MTSU. I think if you're an Alabama fan, you have to be pleased at the effort they gave against MTSU. They came into this game, they were a 39-point favorite. My model had them as a 43-point favorite, something along those lines. But at the end of the day, I think they had like maybe 2 injuries, especially in the secondary. But when we talk about the running game, there was a heavy emphasis on being able to run the football and establish physicality, impose your will on the opposition. I thought Alabama did just that. It may not show on the stat line. They didn't run for 300 yards or 400 yards. I know there was probably an expectation of that, but if you're able to run the football as effectively as they did, they had a 53% rushing success rate, and only 5% of their carries were stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. Now, they ran the ball 40 times in that game, which is very impressive to have only 5% of your carries stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage with that much running volume. Typically, when a team run the football 40 times, even I think anything above 35 times, you're expected to have at least 12 to 15% of your carries stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. For Alabama to have only 5% of their carries stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage, it is a big improvement from the first game last year against Utah State. Against Utah State, they ran the ball 38 times. They had 23% of their carries stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. So if you don't think that there is improvement from last year's offensive line to this year's offensive line, and the emphasis on running the football and being physical and controlling the line of scrimmage, I think they did just that. And I know you're going to point to Middle Tennessee only having 4% of their carries stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. They're a different type of team. They like to get the ball out quickly. And I think they only ran the ball, I think, maybe 20 times in this game. So it wasn't like Middle Tennessee is a team that likes to establish their physicality, because against Alabama, they just couldn't do it against them. So if you're an Alabama fan, you have to be encouraged at the ability for them to run the football. It's definitely going to have to pay dividends in this game coming up. The one thing that we can glean from the Texas game last week was they didn't show anything. They were very vanilla in this game against Rice. Even with them being vanilla, you take a look at that third quarter and their success rate was at 100%. Generally, anything that they did in that third quarter, Rice had nothing for them. It's very hard to get a 100% success rate, in against air, so to speak. But the fact that they was able to do it against Rice lets me know that, for the most part, if they could score against Rice, if they really wanted to make the score 64-10 or 74-10 or whatever it is that they wanted, Sark could have done that. And the fact that they were able to show that in that third quarter pretty much let me know that, okay, obviously, Texas, they're definitely going to show some things in this game against Alabama that they did not show last weekend for good reason. So a lot of motion, a lot of orbit motion. They're going to definitely throw some passes to the tight end as well, a couple of pop passes or what have you. But there's going to be some Alabama centric stuff in this upcoming game that they didn't show last week. So yeah, Sark is definitely going to pull some stuff out for sure. So he's an excellent play caller. And if you're a Texas fan, I honestly wouldn't worry about this. I mean, a 100% post-game win expectancy. They had a better success rate delta, better EPA. You hit 17% of your big plays in this game. The only thing that I could have some concern about was the offensive line. They allowed 18% of the runs stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. So, and especially in a game like this going up against Alabama, you're definitely going to have to show a little bit more balance in this game. You just can't just sit back and just chuck the ball down the field a lot. So if that's probably the only concern that I have. But if Quinn Ewers and that passing attack, if they're going to hit a 56% success rate clip on passing downs, then that may not even matter at this point. The computer model in this game likes Alabama to win by a rounded up score of 32-24. Should be noted that the Vegas odds makers has the over under at 55.5 at the time of recording. So still the model does like Alabama to win, but also to cover. So it looks like this is going to be one of those games where you're going to be sweating whether or not you have placed a bet or whether or not you're going to be watching this game just by the sheer joy of just the fact that you just love college football so much. I think the easy thing to say is that this game is going to come down to the quarterback play between Quinn Ewers for Texas and Jalen Milroe for Alabama. Granted, these two quarterbacks, they're definitely the face of the team, and they both have shown considerable improvement. Especially Jalen Milroe. I watched him play in person when funny. I went to the Austin Peay game and I watched Jalen Milroe play in person. And he looked really uncomfortable under Bill O'Brien. I think he didn't have the best road to success under Bill O'Brien. Especially, I don't think Bill O'Brien called a lot of plays or called a lot of things that Jalen Milroe was comfortable doing, so to speak. He was basically calling the Bryce Young offense, and Bryce Young was the only guy who could actually run that offense, to perfection, so to speak. So I looked at Jalen Milroe in that game against Austin Peay. Since I'm an Austin Peay graduate, I went to that game, and last weekend against MTSU, he's a completely different quarterback than what he was. He hit 3 deep passes that I don't think he could have ever dared to dream of hitting last year. So if he's able to hit those consistently, then the sky is definitely going to be the limit for that Alabama offense. And when you have a guy that can run like a deer like him and basically be able to throw the ball with a touch, intermediate passes and also on deep ball, they're going to be hard to stop. For Texas, Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers, they really wanted that game last year, and you can tell. They called a lot of stuff last year. They hit a lot of deep passes, took a lot of vertical shots, and Alabama was really on their heels to start that game. You can basically tell through the advanced box score. I'm going to put up here real quick. Texas in that first quarter, and you can basically tell they were about as hot as you can get in that game. The game was also hot as well, too, like over 105 degrees in Austin, Texas at noon. So that noon kick definitely, I think, also played into a factor in this game that kind of wore Alabama down a little bit as well. And that crowd, man, at DKR was insane. I mean, that was as loud as a crowd that I think that I've ever heard them in a very long time. So, I think there was a lot that went on in that game against Alabama last year. The penalties, Alabama had over 15 penalties. I mean, in a Nick Saban coach team, I don't think that's ever happened before. So, yeah, there is some room for optimism for Texas in this game. They're out for revenge. They have really stewed on this game, and they have prepped, I believe, all summer long for this particular game here. So they really want this one bad. I think Sark really wants this bad. I think the boosters at Texas have they basically kind of let Sark know that he has to get this one. I don't know what I mean, but I think Alabama in this game, I think they also have to showcase that we're not the Alabama from the last 2 years. I think you can kind of tell in the last 2 years in these big games, they've kind of, I don't know what it is. I think they've kind of froze up a little bit. They don't have that mystique anymore. You hear people talk about how, they're not tough anymore. They don't play with a certain type of edge, a certain type of physicality anymore. You're not scared of Alabama. I think Alabama is going to come into this game. I think they want to prove something. I think they want to prove that we're not the team from last year or the year before. And I think it's going to start up front for Alabama. I think the Texas's defensive line, I think they kind of fit the way that Alabama wants to play. So a lot of manhood is going to be tested in this game. People are they're just going to come right at each other. I mean, hat on a hat, bodies flying, a lot of pads popping. This is going to be a very physical game up front. And this is the kind of game that I think this year's Alabama team is going to be built to win. I'm going to go with Alabama. I don't have them covering the spread here in this game, but I do like the fact that they are playing at home. And I think the defensive line from MTSU, they had to play Alabama a lot different, flooding the box, a lot of stunts, a lot of games, a lot of twists. Texas is a lot bigger up front, and I think with a bigger defensive line, you can actually get your hands on them if you're an offensive lineman, and it's very hard to get a very, very small defensive line. It's tough to get your hands on a smaller defensive line when you're trying to block as well, just based off of how they're trying to game and how to twist and all that. So the fact that Texas is going to be welcome to the challenge here, I think this is going to fit Alabama's wheelhouse here. So I think they're going to enjoy this style of play. So the chess match between the coordinators of Alabama and Texas, I think it's going to be fun to watch. So this game is going to be tight throughout, I think. But I'm going to give Alabama the nod here to the score of 27-23. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be fun to watch. And it's not going to have any shade towards Texas. I think Texas is built like an SEC team, especially up front on the offensive line and the defensive line. The only way that I could see that this game gets out of hand is if Quinn Ewers cannot hit the deep ball and Jalen Milroe for Alabama can hit the deep ball and Alabama is able to show balance. If they're able to run for 200 yards and also throw for another 200, that's the only way that I could see this game getting out of hand for Texas. But if Texas can hit the deep shots, which I think they are going to hit a few because Sark has some stuff planned for Alabama. I think he's going to get his. I think Alabama's also going to get theirs as well. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to salt the game away towards the end with a 4-point win. And that is a wrap for this game. Let me know what your thoughts are about it in the comment section below. Give me your score prediction as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give the video a like and also hit that subscribe button as well. Thank you for watching this channel, and I hope to see you soon. Peace.